well. Thank you for the kind introduction. Dear colleagues, partners, listeners here on campus and online, it's really a pleasure to be back here at the Arthur Lockjack Now Global School of Business, where I facilitated courses in finance, economics, and PPP in different graduate and undergraduate programs for about 7 or 8 years. During my time here, the school offered several programs to build human capacity for sustainable development, such as the Masters in Sustainable Energy Management and the Bachelor in Sustainable Business to form the movers, shakers, leaders, and innovators of tomorrow. Returning now after the COVID break, we must acknowledge that today is yesterday's tomorrow, and yet still we face major challenges in greening Trinidad and Tobago's economy, which is needed to confront the climate crisis and remain globally competitive. I really hope that this conference and the conversations that will follow can contribute to turning the tide and providing the necessary push for the development of cost-effective green solutions and infrastructure and beyond. So I prepared a few slides here, and I would like to take a slightly different angle, although starting similarly with the Caribbean infrastructure gap that we see and the global climate finance landscape. And then introducing a concept which is the dividend of resilience and why investing into resilience makes financial and also social sense. And then looking at, of course, the climate finance and green bond opportunity for TNT and presenting a case study that I've been working on, which is the Eco-Micro project over the past 3 years. So just to start and maybe picking up where my colleagues ended, the Caribbean faces an infrastructure investment crisis due to exhausted public budgets and escalating costs due to climate impacts. You see here on the right a diagram that shows the gap in key infrastructure sectors between the required investment in blue and current investment in orange, basically highlighting that there is a significant gap in the billions for infrastructure developments. And it's known now, not only here in the region, but globally, that governments alone cannot fill the gap alone. And it's also known by now that green and climate finance are proven to support as solutions in filling this gap by mobilizing the private sector. And the private sector here could be corporations, but also citizens like you and I who can invest into green and sustainable solutions. Just to start with another diagram here, I've been working mainly in climate finance, which is a subset of green finance. And the Climate Policy Initiative regularly publishes climate finance flows. And we see that the bulk of it is actually, in terms of the instruments, channeled into the various sectors through project level market debt, right? So this could include green bonds, for example. And it demonstrates that there is a big market, as we heard earlier, up to $1 trillion in green and sustainability type bonds. But I would like to emphasize here that it's not only the carbon credit question that's important for the region, but also the resilience and the adaptation question. We have to adapt to a changing climate. And this is here shown by the imbalance between the funds that are being channeled to mitigation versus adaptation activities. And you see that only about 5% of international global climate finance goes to adaptation projects. And that needs to change. And I think we have to put that on the agenda, seeing that there's a broad, a diverse set of stakeholders here to recognize that we need to adapt to the changing climate. We heard that by 2050, nobody believes that we will be net zero, and I am one of them. And that's why it is critical that we prepare for what's happening. A warmer planet is also a wetter planet, and that means that the Caribbean in particular will be heavily affected by changing climate in the decades to come. So let's take a quick look at what an emerging framework suggests what the triple dividend of resilience is and why we should invest into resilient green infrastructure. First of all, we can avoid losses in the future, reducing damage and repairs and economic setbacks caused by disasters when infrastructure stops functioning. Secondly, there are economic benefits for additional investments in let's say, early stage project planning and building of infrastructure by creating jobs through these proactive investments in resilience. And there's also, of course, improved air and water quality while supporting the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals when we invest into resilience. As such, investments in green infrastructure directly align with the resilience goals by reducing disaster risk from climate change, driving long-term economic growth and competitiveness, and preserving vital ecosystems and promoting low-carbon development at the same time. So filling the gap with green finance really provides an opportunity for Trinidad and Tobago because it is aligned with the country's commitment to the Paris Agreement, as we heard earlier. Trinidad and Tobago's nationally determined contribution sets out clear goals, but also, and I want to make the case today, that it also enables projects and also project developers and implementers to access international climate funds. And these could be grant funding or concessional finance that, when blending it together with bonds, for example, would enable projects to become or to have a lower weighted cost of capital. So these green investments offer therefore long-term economic and environmental return on investments, as during the process, as we heard earlier as well, they are scrutinized, they are assessed in terms of their impact, and typically they promote cost-effective solutions, considering life cycle costs. So the full cost of ownership of a particular asset, and not only short-term cost savings. And of course, there are various financial mechanisms available. We are focusing today on green bonds, but there are also others. And as I mentioned earlier, blending those to investing into resilient infrastructure development is the way forward, and it's been proven in other regions of the world to be highly successful. So in the last couple of minutes here in my presentation, I just want to give you an example of what we have been working on over the past 3 years together with the IDB and other partners, including the German Savings Bank Foundation and the local credit unions spearheaded by the Central Finance Facility, which is sort of the central bank of the credit unions. So there were 3 main components that we implemented during this eco-micro project, and that is the assessment of the credit union's loan portfolio exposure to climate risk and developing climate risk management strategies. So this was already done with partners here on the ground, very successfully identifying those key risks in the loan portfolios. We also developed green consumer loans with the credit union based on the members' demand side assessment, or based on their intention to invest into certain products and green technologies. And in 2024, 2 of the 4 participating credit unions launched green consumer loans. And we conducted an institutional greening effort where we conducted energy audits and developed energy efficiency plans for those eco-micro partners to reduce carbon footprints and also save costs. And just to give you a few numbers, so a total of 20 million TT dollars in green loan issuance across the 4 eco-micro partners was achieved, and that's equating to approximately 115 tons of CO2 emission reductions, which at the same time meant approximately $400,000 in savings for the credit union members based on the reduction of their tea and tech bills, or in the case of hybrid vehicles, the reduction of fuel consumption in their daily commutes. But what's the key takeaway? And I would like to emphasize this, that there is still a major job for us to do in institutional and public awareness raising on the benefits of green investments for the country, but also for the individual citizens. Continue the capacity building within the institutions in the financial space, so credit unions and banks, but also other organizations. And certainly from partners like the IDB to continue to support with implementation support to mainstream green financial products in Trinidad and Tobago. Just a last point here, following up on Mr. Kumar Singh's mention earlier, Trinidad and Tobago has conditional and unconditional contributions in its nationally determined contributions, or NDC. And TNT has committed to reducing 30% of public transportation emissions by 2030 through government-funded projects and initiatives. And therefore, green bonds can support greening the transportation sector, but also promoting the diversification of the energy sector, aligning with the 10% renewable energy generation target of the country, as well as, of course, continue building on the work that we've done through the EcoMicro project in terms of investing into energy efficiency measures. And just to close off, I know we are running out of time, but the challenge, of course, now lies in designing and implementing these green projects in Trinidad and Tobago to access the $1 trillion global green and sustainability bonds market, as we heard earlier. And there are already several projects underway in conceptualization phase to access or to be part of this green bond portfolio that Jonathan mentioned earlier, including nature-based solutions based on vetiver grass, also urban planning projects to reduce the risk of flooding, and clearly building on the EcoMicro project, through which we successfully achieved mobilizing citizen investments into green technologies. So this could be done through a split where 90% of the expenses are covered by the citizens, and 10%, for example, are covered through a mechanism that is supported by the government. But clearly, collaboration is key, and we heard that there is still a lot of room for policy development to develop an enabling environment and creating the right incentives, such as tax breaks for project owners, and also for accessing the Green Fund, for example, in a more straightforward way. Certainly, public awareness to encourage community support is required, as well as, of course, getting the buy-in from the local and international financial institutions. Well, that is it. You can, from my end, thank you for the opportunity to the IAMovement team. You can scan this QR code to directly get in touch with me, or, of course, use this opportunity of the conference.